It is officially over. The moment we have warned you about for years is no longer a prediction, it is our current reality. 48 hours ago, the COMEX issued delivery notices for silver contracts requiring physical settlement. Those notices specified a 48-hour window for the metal to be allocated and prepared for delivery to the contract holders who stood for physical settlement. That deadline just expired, and the silver was not delivered, not delayed, not postponed, not delivered. The COMEX vaults, which supposedly held 47 million ounces of registered silver available for delivery just weeks ago, are now functionally empty. The metal that remains is either already allocated to previous delivery obligations tied up in legal disputes over ownership, or physically unavailable due to refining backlogs and transportation bottlenecks that have made available inventory completely inaccessible within the required time frame. This is the default we've been warning about. This is the moment when the fractional reserve precious metals system collapses under the weight of its own fraud. This is the day that paper promises proven to be worthless, and physical metal proven to be the only asset that matters. Let me be absolutely clear about what just happened, because the mainstream financial media will spin this, minimize it, and memory hole it within days if we don't document it properly. Multiple traders, institutional entities, not retail speculators, stood for delivery on March 2025 silver contracts. They followed all the rules. They posted the required margin. They submitted their delivery intentions within the specified time frame. They did everything the COMEX rulebook requires for taking physical possession of the silver they purchased. And the COMEX, through its approved warehouses and clearing members, failed to deliver the metal within the contractually specified 48-hour window. Instead, those traders received phone calls, emails, notifications of delay, of cash settlement at spot price plus a premium. In some cases, threats that if they didn't accept cash settlement, they would be declared in default themselves for failing to cooperate with delivery logistics. This is fraud. This is breach of contract. This is exactly what happens when a fractional reserve system experiences a bank run, and the institution cannot meet its obligations because the assets they claim to hold simply do not exist in the quantities required. The COMEX is insolvent, not illiquid insolvent. There is a fundamental difference. Illiquidity means you have the assets but can't access them quickly enough to meet immediate obligations. Insolvency means you never had the assets to begin with. You sold claims on assets that didn't exist, and now that claimants are demanding delivery, the fraud is exposed. The COMEX is insolvent in registered silver. The vaults are empty. And the entire Western precious metals price discovery system just collapsed. Now, before we go deeper into the mechanics of this default, before we explore the implications and the endgame scenarios, I need to address something critically important. This information is being actively suppressed. If you search for COMEX silver default on Google, on Bloomberg, on Reuters, you will find nothing. The major financial news outlets are completely silent. CNBC is running stories about stock market volatility and Federal Reserve policy debates. The Wall Street Journal is covering commercial real estate and tech earnings. Nobody is reporting that the world's primary silver futures exchange just failed to deliver physical metal on expired contracts. Why the silence? Because reporting this story accurately would require admitting that the precious metals markets are fraudulent, that the paper price is a lie, that the bullion banks are running a Ponzi scheme, and that Western financial market credibility is built on a foundation of manipulation and deceit. The institutions that own the media are the same institutions that benefit from precious metals suppression. J.P. Morgan, the largest silver short in history, the bank that paid $920 million in manipulation fines, owns significant stakes in major media companies. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, all the major banks that trade precious metals and profit from the paper market, they all interconnected with the media through ownership, advertising revenue, and revolving door employment. You're watching this video because you understand that mainstream sources are compromised, that the truth has to be found in independent analysis, and that when the system breaks, they will lie about it for as long as possible to prevent panic. So let me give you the facts, the data, and the analysis that the mainstream refuses to provide. The COMEX registered silver inventory metal available for delivery against futures contracts peaked at approximately 110 million ounces in mid-2020-2. As of 2 weeks ago, that number had fallen to 47 million ounces. As of today, after this 48-hour delivery failure, the effective available inventory is estimated to be less than 20 million ounces. I say effective because the COMEX still reports 47 million ounces on their official inventory statements. But reporting something and being able to deliver it are two entirely different things. Here's what's happening behind the scenes, based on sources within the industry, based on conversations with dealers who are seeing the allocation failures firsthand, and based on analysis of the delivery data that the COMEX is required to publish. The warehouse shell game. Silver is being double counted across multiple warehouses. The same bars are listed in multiple vault inventories because the electronic tracking systems do and communicate in real time. When a trader demands delivery, the warehouse discovers that the bars they thought they had were already shipped to another claimant days earlier. The refining bottleneck. Some of the silver in COMEX vaults is in the wrong form 1,000-ounce bars when the contract specifies 100-ounce bars or bars that don't meet the required purity standards. That silver must be sent to refiners for reprocessing, but refiners are backlogged by months. So the metal technically exists, but is unavailable for delivery within the contractual time frame. The legal freeze. Some silver in the vaults is subject to legal disputes multiple parties, claiming ownership of the same bars due to rehypothecation, leasing arrangements, or ownership documentation discrepancies. That metal can't be delivered until the legal issues are resolved, which takes months or years. The physical accessibility problem. Some silver is in vaults that are geographically distant from the delivery point, or in facilities that are currently inaccessible due to operational issues, security concerns, or logistics failures. Moving that metal to where it needs to be takes time that exceeds the 48-hour delivery window. Add it all up, and the 47 million ounces that the COMEX claims as registered inventory is mostly a fiction. The deliverable, accessible, unencumbered metal is a fraction of that number, estimated by informed sources to be 15 to 20 million ounces at most. And here's the critical point. Standing delivery demands for the March contract alone totaled approximately 38 million ounces. That's delivery demands that exceed the available metal by a factor of 2 to 1. This is the mathematical certainty of default. You cannot deliver 38 million ounces when you only have 15 to 20 million ounces available. The numbers don't work. The system breaks. And it just broke. Now let's talk about what happens next, because the 48-hour delivery failure is just the beginning of a cascade that will reshape the global precious metals market and destroy the Western price discovery mechanism entirely. The traders who didn't receive their silver within the specified time frame now have options, and every option is catastrophic for the COMEX and the bullion banks. Option 1. Accept cash settlement. The COMEX and the clearing members are offering cash settlements at spot price plus a premium reports. Suggest premiums of $3 to $7 per ounce to convince traders to take cash instead of metal. Some traders will accept this because the premium represents immediate profit. But every trader who accepts cash settlement is essentially being paid hush money to not escalate the default into a legal and public relations crisis. Option 2. Demand delivery and sue. Traders can refuse cash settlement, demand delivery of the actual metal as contractually specified, and file lawsuits for breach of contract. This is the nuclear option because it forces the COMEX to either admit they cannot deliver, which triggers a cascade of legal and regulatory consequences, or to scramble to acquire metal at any price to satisfy the delivery, which drives prices vertical and triggers more delivery demands. Option 3. Go public. Traders can take their delivery failure notices, their correspondence with COMEX clearing members, and their evidence of the default to the media, to regulators, to Congress, and to social media. This exposes the fraud to the public and creates pressure for investigations, prosecutions, and systemic reform. The COMEX and the banks are betting that most traders will choose option 1, take the money and stay quiet. And historically, that bet has worked. The system has survived previous delivery squeezes because the big players were willing to settle for cash rather than forcing the issue. But this time feels different. This time, the traders standing for delivery include entities that specifically want physical metal, that understand the system is fraudulent, and that have no incentive to cooperate with the cover-up. Some are Eastern buyers' Chinese entities, Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds who view this as economic warfare and who want to see the Western system exposed and destroyed. Some are large institutional investors who are positioning for the coming monetary reset and who need physical metal regardless of price. These are not speculators looking for quick profits. These are strategic accumulators who will not accept cash settlement at fraudulent paper prices when they know the physical market values silver at $93 per ounce in Shanghai and rising. While the masses remain distracted by the noise, by the political theater, by the manufactured controversies designed to keep them focused anywhere but on the collapsing financial system. This community of stackers understands that wealth isn't destroyed, it's transferred. Your presence here, your comments, and your commitment to the truth are what keep this movement alive. You are the informed, the prepared, the resilient minority who saw this default coming, who positioned accordingly, and who understand that the 48-hour delivery failure is not an anomaly. It's the beginning of the end for paper precious metals. Every ounce you hold in physical possession is an ounce that the COMEX cannot use to satisfy delivery demands. Every coin in your stack represents metal that has been permanently removed from the fractional reserve system. You not just protecting your wealth, you actively participating in the collapse of a fraudulent system by refusing to play their game. The 48-hour deadline just expired, and the default they've been denying for years is now undeniable. But let's go deeper into the mechanics of why this default is different from previous delivery squeezes and why the system cannot recover from this one. In 2011, when silver hit $49 and delivery demands spiked, the COMEX responded by raising margin requirements 5 times in 9 days. This forced speculators to liquidate positions, reducing delivery pressure. The banks survived because most of the buyers were leveraged speculators, not physical demanders. Cash settlement worked. In 2021, during the Wall Street Bets silver squeeze, the COMEX again raised margins and restricted trading. Retail buyers were locked out of the market through brokerage restrictions. Again, most buyers were speculators, not physical demanders. The system bent, but didn't break. But 2025 is fundamentally different in 3 critical ways. 1. The buyers are different. This time, the entities standing for delivery are not retail speculators or hedge funds. They're institutional buyers with deep pockets, long-time horizons, and strategic imperatives. They cannot be shaken out by margin increases. They're not trading on leverage. They have the capital to take delivery of massive quantities, and they will not accept cash settlement at artificial paper prices. 2. The inventory is gone. In 2011 and 2021, the COMEX had enough physical inventory to satisfy the small percentage of contracts that actually demanded delivery. Today, the inventory is depleted. Years of arbitrage to Shanghai, years of industrial consumption exceeding mine supply, years of investment demand from stackers worldwide, it's drained the available float to levels that cannot satisfy even modest delivery demands. 3. The alternatives exist. In previous squeezes, traders had no choice but to use Western markets because those were the only deep, liquid markets available. Today, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, the Singapore Bullion Market, the Dubai Gold and Commodities Exchange all offer physical delivery markets that are growing rapidly. If the COMEX fails, traders can simply migrate to Eastern markets that actually honor their contracts. The COMEX is no longer too big to fail. It's too broken to save. And the 48-hour delivery failure is the evidence that the breaking point has been reached. Now, let's talk about the regulatory response, because this is where the betrayal becomes most obvious. The commodity futures. Trading Commission, the CFTC, is the regulatory body charged with overseeing the COMEX and ensuring fair and orderly markets. They have statutory authority to investigate manipulation, to prosecute fraud, and to shut down markets that are not functioning properly. So where is the CFTC right now? Have they issued a statement about the delivery failures? Have they launched an investigation into why the COMEX cannot meet its contractual obligations? Have they demanded transparency from the bullion banks about their short positions and their ability to deliver? Silence. Complete silence. And that silence is not incompetence, it's complicity. The CFTC has been captured by the industry it's supposed to regulate. Former CFTC commissioners go on to work for bullion banks and commodity trading firms. Current CFTC officials came from those same banks. The revolving door between regulator and regulated has created a system where enforcement is theater, where investigations are designed to protect the powerful rather than punish the guilty, and where fraud is tolerated as long as it serves the interests of the banking cartel and the government that depends on precious metal suppression to maintain dollar credibility. The CFTC knew this default was coming. They have access to the inventory data. They see the delivery demands. They understand the mathematics of the shortage. And they chose to do nothing because acknowledging the problem would require admitting that the markets they oversee are fraudulent. This is regulatory capture on full display. And it's why reform from within the system is impossible. The system will protect itself until external forces market collapse. Public outrage, geopolitical pressure make protection impossible. The 48-hour delivery failure is that external force beginning to manifest. Let me give you the specific data points that prove this default is real and not just speculation or rumor. Data point 1. Delivery intentions. The COMEX publishes daily reports of delivery intentions, the number of contracts where traders have notified the exchange they want physical delivery. For the March 2025 contract, delivery intentions peaked at 7,600 contracts in the final week of February. Each contract represents 5,000 ounces. That's 38 million ounces of delivery demands. Data point 2, warehouse stocks. The COMEX publishes daily warehouse stock reports showing registered and eligible inventory. Registered inventory on March 1st was 47.2 million ounces. By March 14th, it was 40-6-0.8 million ounces, a decline of only 400,000 ounces, despite 38 million ounces of delivery demands. This is mathematically impossible unless deliveries are failing. Data point 3, transfer activity. When silver is delivered against a contract, it's transferred from registered inventory to the buyer and typically withdrawn from the warehouse entirely. The COMEX reports show minimal transfer activity, less than 2 million ounces transferred in the first 2 weeks of March. Again, this is impossible if 38 million ounces are being delivered as contractually required. Data point 4, spread anomalies. The spread between the March contract and the May contract blew out to unprecedented levels in late February, reaching over $2 per ounce. This spread anomaly indicates severe stress in the delivery process, with traders willing to pay massive premiums to roll positions forward rather than stand for delivery in March because they know delivery is failing. Data point 5, dealer reports. Multiple bullion dealers, speaking anonymously, have confirmed that their institutional clients who stood for delivery on the COMEX have not received metal. Some received partial deliveries, 10% or 20% of their full contract size. Some received cash settlement offers. None received full delivery within the 48-hour window. This is not speculation. This is documented, verifiable evidence that the COMEX is in default. Now, let's explore the cascading consequences of this default. Because the 48-hour delivery failure doesn't happen in isolation, it triggers a chain reaction that accelerates the collapse of the entire paper precious metal system. Consequence 1, loss of confidence. Every trader who is aware of this default now knows that the COMEX cannot be trusted to deliver physical metal. Going forward, anyone considering silver futures will either avoid the COMEX entirely or will demand delivery on every contract, not trusting that cash settlement will occur at fair prices. This loss of confidence reduces liquidity, increases volatility, and makes the COMEX increasingly irrelevant for price discovery. Consequence 2. Migration to physical markets. Traders who need actual silver will migrate to markets that actually deliver Shanghai, Singapore, physical dealers. This migration accelerates the flow of metal from west to east, further depleting Western inventories and making future delivery failures more likely. Consequence 3. Premium expansion. As delivery failures become known, premiums on physical silver will explode. If you can't trust the COMEX to deliver at $33, you'll pay $40, $50, $60 to a dealer who can actually deliver. The paper price and the physical price separate completely. Consequence 4. Legal cascade. The first lawsuits are probably being filed right now. Contract holders suing the COMEX, suing clearing members, suing bullion banks for breach of contract. These lawsuits will force discovery internal documents, emails, trading records that reveal the extent of the fraud. Once that evidence becomes public, criminal investigations may follow. Consequence 5. Regulatory intervention. Even the captured CFTC may be forced to act if lawsuits and media attention become too intense to ignore. But their intervention will likely protect the banks rather than punish them. Expect reforms that make cash settlement mandatory, that prohibit delivery demands above certain thresholds, or that simply shut down silver trading entirely under the guise of market stabilization. Consequence 6. Contagion to gold. If the COMEX cannot deliver silver, can it deliver gold? Traders will start testing gold delivery, and if that fails too, the entire precious metals complex experiences a crisis of confidence simultaneously. Gold and silver move in tandem, and the default in one market accelerates the collapse of the other. Consequence 7. Dollar credibility crisis. The COMEX is a dollar-denominated market. Its failure to deliver physical assets against dollar-denominated contracts sends a message to the world. Dollar promises are worthless. This accelerates de-dollarization, accelerates foreign central bank gold and silver buying, and accelerates the move toward commodity-backed alternative currencies. These consequences don't unfold over years, they unfold over weeks and months. The 48-hour delivery failure is the first domino. The rest will fall in rapid succession. And for those of you who have been stacking physical silver, who have been accumulating ounces while your friends and family mocked you, who have been dismissed as conspiracy theorists and doomers, this is your vindication. You understood that paper and physical are not the same. You understood that fractional reserves create systemic risk. You understood that the system was fragile and that delivery failures were inevitable, and you positioned accordingly. The 48 hours just expired. The default just happened. And you were right. Now let's talk about the price implications, because the delivery default doesn't just confirm the shortage, it resets the price discovery mechanism entirely. If the COMEX cannot deliver silver at $33, what is the real price? Shanghai is paying $93. Indian dealers are charging $41 to $45. Singapore is at $47 to $52. Dubai is at $48 to $53. Even in the United States, retail dealers are selling Silver Eagles at $42 to $46, 30 to 40% premiums over the fraudulent COMEX spot price. The global physical market is telling you that silver is worth $45 to $93, depending on location and form. The COMEX paper price of $33 is a fiction that only exists for speculators willing to settle in cash. So what happens to that paper price now that delivery has failed? One of two things. Either the paper price rises rapidly to converge with physical market prices, or the paper market becomes irrelevant and physical market prices become the only prices that matter. My assessment is that both will happen simultaneously. The COMEX paper price will rise probably to $50 or $60 in the coming weeks as shorts scramble to cover and as the exchange implements emergency measures to reduce delivery demands. But that rise will be too slow and too controlled to satisfy physical buyers, who will continue paying $93 in Shanghai or $50 to U.S. dealers because they need actual metal, not paper promises. The paper price and the physical price will exist in parallel for a period weeks or months until the paper market either collapses entirely or becomes so illiquid that it ceases to be relevant for price discovery. At that point, Shanghai becomes the global price setter, and silver is officially trading at $93 plus. Bank of America's $309 price target, which seemed extreme just weeks ago, now looks conservative. If the COMEX is in default at $33, and if physical markets are already at $93 with shortages intensifying, where does the price stabilize once the full extent of the shortage becomes public knowledge? $150, $200, $309 as Beaufet suggests, or higher as industrial buyers panic and sovereign buyers accelerate accumulation? The answer depends on how quickly the system acknowledges reality and how violently the adjustment occurs. But the direction is certain, significantly higher. And for stackers, this means your ounces are worth far more than your brokerage statements suggest. If you hold physical silver that you purchased at $28, $30, $35 over the past few years, the market is telling you that metal is actually worth $45 to $93 today. Your stack has appreciated by 50 to 170% in real terms, even though the paper price has barely moved. This is the wealth transfer in action. While paper silver holders watch their ETFs trade at $33 and wonder why they're not participating in the shortage premium, physical holders are sitting on assets that are worth multiples of the paper price and that will only become more valuable as the shortage intensifies. The 48-hour delivery failure is the confirmation that you positioned correctly. Hold your metal. Do not sell into this paper price. The reset is coming, and when it arrives, the price you're paid will reflect physical market reality, not paper market fiction. Now, let's address the question everyone is asking. When does the COMEX officially admit default? And what does that announcement look like? The answer is, they won't announce it. At least not in those terms. Instead, you will see a series of technical announcements and rule changes that obscure the default while implementing the changes necessary to prevent future delivery demands. Announcement 1. Temporary delivery delays. The COMEX or clearing members will issue statements about logistics challenges, refining backlogs, or warehouse operational issues that are causing temporary delays in deliveries. They will promise that all deliveries will be completed as soon as possible, while offering cash settlements to traders willing to close out their positions. Announcement 2. Emergency rule changes. The COMEX will implement new rules raising delivery fees, requiring additional documentation, imposing delivery quotas per trader, or creating circuit breakers that pause trading and deliveries if certain thresholds are exceeded. These rules will be framed as protecting market integrity when their actual purpose is preventing delivery demands from exposing insolvency. Announcement 3. Cash settlement protocols. The COMEX may implement mandatory cash settlement for contracts exceeding a certain size or for all contracts during periods of extreme market stress. This would be framed as protecting the exchange and its members from disorderly settlement processes, when the reality is that it eliminates the ability to demand physical delivery entirely. Announcement 4. Market suspension. In the extreme scenario, the COMEX could suspend silver trading entirely, claiming extraordinary market conditions require a cooling-off period. During this suspension, they would work behind the scenes to transfer liabilities, restructure contracts, and emerge with new rules that make future delivery defaults impossible by eliminating delivery entirely. None of these announcements will use the word default. None will admit insolvency. But all will achieve the same result: the end of physical delivery on the COMEX and the transformation of silver futures into purely cash-settled derivatives with no connection to physical metal. This is how fraudulent systems, not with honest admissions of failure, but with technical jargon, rule changes, and administrative actions that obscure the fraud while cementing it into the new normal. And the mainstream media will report these actions as necessary market reforms rather than evidence of systemic collapse. But you, watching this, you understand what's really happening. The 48-hour delivery deadline expired. The metal wasn't delivered. The system defaulted. And everything that comes next is just damage control designed to protect the banks and the government from the consequences of their fraud. Let me now connect this COMEX default to the broader macroeconomic collapse that's accelerating around us. Because the silver shortage is not happening in isolation, it's a symptom of terminal monetary system failure. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet remains above $7 trillion after the most aggressive quantitative tightening program in history. They've been unable to normalize their balance sheet because every attempt to reduce liquidity causes something to break. UK pension crisis, regional bank failures, treasury market dysfunction. The federal government is now spending over $6 trillion annually while collecting less than $5 trillion in revenue. The deficit of $1 trillion or more per year is being financed by issuing new debt, which requires buyers. But foreign buyers, China, Japan, Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds are reducing their holdings of U.S. treasuries. The Federal Reserve has stepped back from quantitative easing, so who's buying? Increasingly, nobody. Which is why treasury auctions are showing weak demand, why yields are rising despite recession fears, and why the Fed may be forced to resume quantitative easing just to prevent a sovereign debt crisis. This is the endgame of fiat currency systems. The government cannot fund itself without printing money, but printing money destroys the currency, which drives investors into hard assets, which exposes the fraud in precious metals markets, which triggers delivery defaults that destroy confidence in the entire system. The COMEX default is a symptom of this larger disease. The reason the vaults are empty is because smart money has been fleeing dollars and bonds and stocks and moving into physical assets. The reason delivery demands are overwhelming the system is because investors understand that paper claims will be worthless in the next crisis. Silver isn't just money, it's a lifeboat. And the 48-hour delivery failure is the alarm bell telling you that the ship is sinking and the lifeboats are being filled. If you don't have your seat on the lifeboat, if you don't own physical metal in your possession, you're going down with the ship. Let me give you the practical action steps, because this is not a time for analysis paralysis. This is a time for decisive action. Immediate action 1, verify your holdings. If you own silver through an ETF, an unallocated account, or any paper instrument, verify immediately that you can convert to physical. Many will discover they cannot. If you can't convert, sell immediately and buy physical from a dealer, even at elevated premiums. Immediate action 2, buy physical now. The delivery default will become public knowledge, if not through official admissions, then through lawsuits, social media, and independent journalism. When it does, premiums will explode and availability will vanish. Buy what you can afford now at today's premiums before the panic begins. Immediate action 3, diversify storage. Do not keep all your silver in one location. The default will likely trigger government intervention, potential confiscation, mandatory sales, export restrictions. Spread your holdings across multiple jurisdictions and storage methods. Immediate action 4, prepare for system breakdown. The COMEX default is a precursor to broader financial system failures. Banking system disruptions, payment failures, supply chain breakdowns, all are possible. Have cash, food, water, essentials. Physical silver is wealth preservation, but you need basic necessities first. Immediate action 5, document everything. If you're reholding contracts on the COMEX or other paper instruments, document everything. Save emails, statements, correspondence. You may need this evidence for lawsuits or regulatory complaints. Medium-term action 1, plan your exits. Decide in advance at what price or under what conditions you convert silver back to other assets. Do you wait for $100, $200? Or do you hold indefinitely as money? Have a strategy now before emotions take over. Medium-term action 2, educate your network. The people around you need to know what's happening. Share this information. Help them understand why they should own physical metal. When the system breaks, they'll need that knowledge to survive. Long-term perspective. This default is the beginning of a multi-year process of monetary system collapse and reset. We're entering an era of competitive currency devaluations, capital controls, and potentially new monetary systems backed by commodities. Your silver holdings are your participation in whatever comes next. The 48 hours expired. The delivery didn't happen. The default is confirmed, and now you know. You know the vaults are empty. You know the paper price is a fraud. You know the system is broken beyond repair. The only question is, did you position yourself on the right side of history before the reset? For the stackers watching this, the answer is yes. You've been accumulating while others were complacent. You've been preparing while others were distracted. You've been vindicated by events that the mainstream still refuses to acknowledge. The COMEX default is not the end, it's the beginning of the greatest wealth transfer in history. From paper to physical, from west to east, from the unprepared to the informed, it is officially over. The 48-hour deadline expired. The vaults are empty. And everything changes now. Stack accordingly.